Here's a little garden update. I've concluded that the nursery has to be moved over here into the shade. I had it in a direct sun exposure. These are very, very interesting succulents that were very small and they're growing up, which is cool, into bushes. They're like bushes and they're succulents. So these are extremely drought tolerant. Aloes are succulent. Here's another example of succulents. That's a succulent. This over here is not a succulent, but it's a water-wise, drought-tolerant species. Yeah. Succulent in the back. This area here is called, this area in between my house and my neighbor's house is the breezeway. It's a very small area. The cost of real estate has driven up land costs so expensive that you see how close these houses are. I guess this is a modern design. Here's a 3,500 square foot house next to another, 3,500 square foot house. Some of these houses in the neighborhood, like the one in the back right there, I would say it's got an entire upstairs. They could probably add an additional 1,500 square feet. So 35 plus 15, and there you go. That's 5,000 square foot home with the upper level. Nowadays, no one really has a double garage. If you do, you can convert it because some of the houses, our house in Oceanside had 2 garages and it was like, so a 3-car garage. Everyone in here just has 2. You walk around, these are birds of paradise. They're related to the palms. They're in the palm family. Uno, dos, tres, there's 3 of them there. This is where I had the nursery before. This gets the most prolonged sun exposure in the yard. Looks up into the sky. Look at the house here. My neighbor's house next to me. So close. What is good about the design here is that they figured out create shade with the structure. So the porch is built in to the design. So you have your instant shade. That's good. That's a good understanding of the landscape. And then this was all nothing. So if we go down the line here, these are slow growing evergreens. They have a beautiful kind of tint to them. This is a natural organic thing that came up in celebration of St. Patrick's Day, the passing of Donald Scordo. Those grew. These bougainvilleas are from the Mediterranean. You see them a lot in Spain and stuff. I just planted those. They have thorns on them. They're great for like walls. And then I planted these other little bushes around it because I've seen this done here. And what will happen over time is that the bushes to the left here, this one right here, it's called a privet texanum, Linguinstrum japonicum. It's a shrub. Now this shrub is beautiful because the green on it, it has like a light green, the new. So my design is this. These will grow up together and this bougainvillea will actually fill in. I've seen it before, those vines, these bushes will fill in the space. So they'll blend in together and it'll be beautiful because you'll have this nice flower. There's one here, one here. I put 2 of the bougainvilleas. These are thorny, so again, they're good for walls and where you don't want to have people coming over into your property, your neighbor, okay? So they're thorny shrubs. And then I put these Texas, the privet texanum is what it's called. These are beautiful. They grow straight up. There's some of the new growth on them. And they become nice shrubs. And then this will actually blend into it. That's a creative, more advanced technique. Now this tree right here, I fell in love with this tree when I first found it. It's got a weeping effect to it. Most importantly, it's got this beautiful scent. When you break the leaves, it's absolutely invigorating, to be honest. It's a peppermint. So you can breathe that in, and they have 2 tones. So they've got like a maroon with a dark Once these are established, they're completely drought tolerant as well. They originate from the Mediterranean. This is a Mediterranean tree. This is a baby. I put this in here about 6 months ago with a sister tree right here because I'm trying to create shade. We're blocking out the neighbor over there who has some Japanese trees. These are very popular trees, Podocarpus. They grow in very nice as a hedge or as a screen, which we have here, or a wall. This one is lacking some nutrients. It's not green, but the ones over here get a lot of the benefit from my watering, because I water the ecosystem on this side, and you can see the green. And they're beautiful because they're new leaves. They look plastic and they're so feminine. They're such a beautiful looking tree. So that's gonna be a nice back when they're green. Go along the wall there. These were cutlings that I took off the ones I have previously shown in the video. I'm very impressed with these as they grow out into a shrub because they're magnificent. They have a great variety of green. It's perfect for St. Patrick's Day. There's those Texas ones. So this whole wall back here, at least from this small Japanese pine, which I'll talk about in a second, from here all the way over. So you've got the Texas privets, the Bougainvillea, the Texas privets, more Texas privets, Bougainvillea. I have a pattern here. The privet, the screen, the tree here, Bougainvillea, the privet, another privet, Texas that is, the Bougainvillea, very popular in the Mediterranean. You'll see these all over Spain. They're very popular in Portugal, very popular in Italy, the southern regions, the warm Mediterranean climates. That's why it does well here. And then these are slow growing juniper point, deer resistant, which anyone who's been out here can attest. We don't really see a lot of deers here because we have mountain lions and their population doesn't, it's controlled. The mountain lions eat deer here. So the deer here in Southern California are very, very nimble, clever. They're a little bit smaller. They're on the lookout because these mountain lions are in their territory and they don't have a lot of cover here. It's wide open. You know, they have shrubs and trees, but it's not complete cover all around like the Atlantic and that in that different region, that climate zone. Very different. Getting back to the succulents here, this is a slow grower, but you can really see that this fiery red starts to present itself with some nice burgundy, almost pinks. Really, really nice. Of course, this is drought tolerant, very drought tolerant here. All the soil here in Southern California is nothing more than hard sand. It's a desert. So there's no real nutrient value. So you have to basically amend all the soil, okay? Here we have a nice looking, beautiful succulent that I planted. It's grown in size. This is nothing, looks very similar, but it's a different variation. This small one right here, but this one right here is beautiful. Take a look at the colors on this. You've got light blues, burgundies, pinks, greens. It's delicate and it's perfect. This is a little shrub that is nice. It's water wise, it's not a succulent. What we have here is the irrigation system. Again, some examples of, I'll get a lot of clippings. The one underneath there, that little shrub underneath the tree, that was a clipping. This is the drainage system. Deserts don't drain very well, and although rain is very rare, when it does rain, I like to harvest the rainwater for this particular stuff here. Now, this is a unique story. This is the aloe vera plant. By far, my favorite plant. My mother grew these on the East Coast as a kid in kind of like a room where she had all her plants growing up. These are phenomenal. And there's a quick story behind this one in the front right here. This one in the front was a suckling, a baby that I had taken from a neighbor's plant living down by the border in a city called Chula Vista, overlooking, it was a beautiful city, love it. Shout out to Chula Vista, by far one of the coolest cities on the border. Easy access to La Jolla, downtown San Diego, but at the same time, you're on the border with Chula Vista, and it's a quite contrast on the US side of the border compared to the Mexican side of the border. The lifestyle, the quality of life, people live fantastically well in Chula Vista, and you can go down a couple miles and be in some of the worst barrios and ravaged neighborhoods of Mexico in the city called Tijuana. But this was growing down in Chula Vista, and I took it, and it was amazing. I had it basically grow into about 3 or 4 of these beautiful aloe trees. This one's 2 years old since I put it in the ground. So after about 2 years, they look really, really nice. And I had them in pots, and I was able to give it to a neighbor. And this was a suckling from this. So this is a 3rd generation aloe that is now in Lakeforest in Orange County, about 2 hours south of where it originally was planted. It's migrated up here. And then I've got these 2 other babies that I bought at the local Home Depot to actually grow it in. I like to grow things in a series of 3. So you'll have an aloe vera, and it's very good if you're experiencing sunburn, any irritation to the skin. The other thing I learned while living down in the Caribbean was that if you're sick, you can take one of these aloe pieces, like you would take this one, for example. You would slice it open, and you would ingest the aloe vera fruit, skin-free. And it is the most bitter thing I've ever tasted in my life. But a Rastafarian friend of mine that was a roommate living in a shanty in the island of St. John named Whaler B, he knew I was in desperate pain one night. We were roommates, and I was vomiting profusely. Really didn't have any medicine. I was in the middle of the Caribbean up in a shanty with no electricity, but we did have harvested rainwater propane tanks set up. So it was a great shanty, an amazing shanty. In fact, it had ocean views of paradise. The definition of paradise is when you see multiple islands in view. So if you're looking out into the ocean, that's fantastic, and it's just a blue ocean. That's beautiful. But there's also something very mystical about looking out and seeing islands on the horizon. That is what they call paradise. All right, as we move along here, here's a more mature example of the one that was similar to the other one. This is a succulent. It's got pink, really, really feminine, beautiful. This one right here is a ground cover. I'm excited about this. I picked this up at a local upscale nursery. I put 2 of them. Clearly the one over here, I think the shade, that's when new plants benefit from shade, has really grown. Here's the other one I planted simultaneously, and you can see they were similar, but this one hasn't taken off. I think it just has everything to do with location. More sun exposure is probably not good. When they're fresh, planted, they want to be in a little bit of shade. So I've moved my nursery into the shade. Still gets indirect light, but that's right. Okay. Yeah. Another example of clippings I took and planted over here. This will be a nice shrub. You have the Texas privet, the bougainvillea, this. Oh, and then there's a bird feeding station since we're here. This bird station, feeding station, I fixated here with just a drill. This was a good technique. Learn to do that. This is a bag, and this bag has seeds in it. And these seeds come out and they feed these beautiful golden finches. You can hear them in the background. They'll come in, you'll get 5, 6 of them in one bag. They're absolutely gorgeous. But my favorite bird, there it is. These hummingbirds are absolutely phenomenal. At any one time I can have, you can attract up to a handful of them, and they'll fly in this lane right here. And I liken them to essentially aircrafts, UFOs that can move in and out of positions. They can move directly up, they can laterally. I mean, it's amazing, their movement. And they're just, look, they stop. Watch them fly out. They're like, zip, 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 and they buzz around, and you're just like, oh man, it really does create, you become buzzing. You love to buzz with those. So I have 2 main birds that I attract, although I have a lot of birds coming in now. Now this bush over here is a fruit tree. You wouldn't have known it at first glance right now. And in fact, it lost all of its leaves this winter, and they just came back. A pomegranate tree. This is a pomegranate tree, and it produces roughly, last year I got about 15 pomegranates. They're big too. They come on this thing. Pomegranates, red, cut them up. They got the berries. They're luscious. They're an exotic fruit, okay? Getting back in over here real quick, let's talk about these. Now, any gardener will identify what this is probably right away if you're familiar with this species. I've got, one here. This one's slightly burned. When they burn like that, it's because I put water. I artificially water this garden a lot. I did from time to time, and I actually like to mimic the rain. Now the problem is if it rains in the direct sunlight, what happens is this burn on those leaves are from having water on the leaves and then direct sun exposure. So this is the gardenia, okay? Ever blooming Gardenia Verici, Italian for sure. Comes from the Mediterranean. It's very hardy once established, but it produces a beautiful flower that's fragrant, those white gardenia flowers. So I put 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to plant in bunches. This was a bunch of 4. Right here is a dropling from the podocarpus, a clipping. The neighbors clipped this, it fell down. You can see this is a clipping here, okay? And as we walk around here, I've been a big proponent of composting for many years now. Actually, I started recycling when I graduated from high school in 1991. It was rare. This is a compost pile that I started about a year ago, and it was dirt. I mean, this thing is just pure sand. If you look above the compost, you'll notice I put some bird feeders over here that are messy. Okay, so these are for the finches. And the thing I love about the finches, these are the big finches compared to those little babies in there, which are like delicate. I'll show you the green finches. The little golden finches. What I love about finches is the fact that they mate and they stay together for life. It's a romantic concept. It's absolutely breathtaking when you see 2 of them. And you never see them in single pairs. They're always with their mate. It's so romantic. I think it's beautiful. And this is just what I would call a messy bird feeder. So I put the messy bird feeder directly on top of the compost. So when the seeds fall down here, I get a different type of bird in here. I've attracted close to, I've counted like 7 species of birds. My 2 favorite are here, but I get about 7. And what I'm seeing now is that either more birds are finding out about our garden, okay? Or they're migrating. So the migration is bringing in a new species. But this species primarily serves the needs of typical finches. The finches are probably like 6 inches and they're gray. And then the males have this red chest and they always come together, okay? That's it. I'll put fruit on top of my ledge here, give the birds an opportunity. I put all of it here, and then once it's done, like there's some pineapples here and I have some strawberries that they've eaten, I just take the fruit and they drop right down into my compost. Boom, right into my compost. So now, although I live in a fairly, I'm, I guess royal. It's not urban, I'm not a city dweller. This is a rural, we have a compost here. And so I'll put anything that's compostable in here. And that includes all basic like vegetables and fruits. Even there, you'll see this was a tomato plant that I recycled. I cut packets in there. That's Chick-fil-A sauce. Those are orange rinds. Those are onion peels. There's a banana in there. There's a lettuce, avocado seed. That's what I see. Orange peels, onion peels, but I will also put bananas. I'll put anything in here now, anything that's biodegradable. See some tomatoes, rotten tomatoes in here. Oh, corn, there was some corn I put in there. So that's what happens. And then what happens over here is we're creating an ecosystem. This creates insect. We have some lizards. I have 2 or 3 very good lizards. I don't know if I can catch them that I've produced. Watch, we'll get this. Tune into the channel if you want to see some really exciting bird activity. Southern California lifestyle. Look, there's one. Here they go. Let's see, if I stay right here, you might just come join me. Watch. listen closely, it's like an orchestra. And the humming of the birds, their wings. Okay, now we'll start to see the different species I was talking about. There's those beautiful little finches. I don't know if you can see them. They're golden finches, and they're so small. They're like the ones they would keep in a cage, you know? Italian families, people would have pet finches. That's probably about the size. And then we've got the bigger ones I was talking about. They're probably, 3 times as big as these little babies. But they're still small birds. They're not as big as a dove, or not as big as a crow. They're a medium-sized bird. And through there, I don't know if you can see it, we've spotted a couple. I would call them just a common, probably finch. They're really twice as big. Look, there's a little golden finch. And then look, thank you for joining me on this bird watch adventure. I just found another species that I've attracted. It likes to, it's a ground dweller. It's like a hopper, it bounces around. I don't know the name of it right now, but it'll come down the fence. It's down there on the far fence line. It has white stripings on its head. Here's a feeder right here. We've got 2 common finches. The green one below. Let me just move. I don't know why they're so fidgety about me. I feed them. I've never threatened them. I mean, they're timid, these birds. See if we get the one hopping down the fence. I think they're like a chickadee, and they'll hop down and they'll eat everything along the fence line. So, oh, there's one maybe. Oh, that's a new species. I found one. This is one I don't know the name for. Look, it's jumping around in that tree behind the fence. It should make its way down to the fence. There it is. Watch, there it comes. It's on the fence line, behind the photo carpet, maybe behind the, I'll go in the flexible, it's on the tree, yeah.